Let's chat.
It's hard.
You want to talk?
I know, that's disappointing.
Sit back. Let's work this
How's
out.
it going?
What are we
That's
doing
okay.
here?
Where are you going? Hey there. Wow.
It's not always easy. It's amazing if you think about it.
Let's think
This
about
seems
this.
strange.
I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard.
Trauma bonded.
Wasn't your mom, didn't she work at a bank?
My mom worked at a bank, yeah.
Didn't she get held up?
Yeah, my mom was held up at gunpoint at a bank. I think what's especially fucked up about our storyteller this week is I think they're prepared to a certain degree, right? And I think the usual understanding is that you'll be robbed at gunpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's particularly kind of fucked up and maybe caught her off guard in this situation is she's on guard for that potential of being held up at gunpoint for people to take her money, but I don't think she was actually prepared for just someone that was potentially mentally ill to pull a knife on her and not do it toward the idea of robbing the place. So even though you're kind of on guard for crime in a situation like this, she wasn't on guard for this kind of crime.
Yeah, it seems a bit random.
It's so random. So my mom worked in a bank and they were always prepared for being held up at gunpoint. But then once, it actually happened, it was upsetting and it traumatized her. And when I was also held up at gunpoint, just on the road, on the street, that was when she said to me, from now on, you'll never be the same again. And I thought she was crazy. And she was actually right. Like it filtered everything else in my life when I went out in public. So it's a very traumatizing event. This one in particular is particularly. It's fucking scary because this is just a random person that didn't like that you pointed to a piece of paper and comes up behind you and slits your throat. That's not a proper bank heist.
No,
there's nothing proper about it. It's completely unexpected. It's completely out of left field. Yeah.
Because she had the kitchen knife. But
she brought the kitchen knife. She said it was a big one, so I assume it was like,
oh my God,
a big boy, the big boy in the block.
Yeah. And then, but didn't really have a plan after the fact.
Yeah.
Wasn't to steal any money.
Yeah. Also crazy. This was a bank heist with no money taken.
I mean, can it even be called a bank heist?
No, it can't. But I think that's what is so fucked up about it is most crime in a bank situation is being toward money. And this one seemingly had nothing to do with money. It only had to do with some sort of personal slight about inappropriate touching. She called her touchy-feely.
Touchy-feely. Yeah, touchy-feely.
Some people don't want you to be so touchy-feely. She pointed to lines on a piece of paper.
Also, the reason that she was going to the bank in the first place was to print out old transactions.
Yeah, like statements,
which seems, I'm just saying, pro tip, you can actually find all that information online.
Yes.
If you're not trying to be touchy-feeled,
yeah,
just go online and get. It's not like she's like an old lady or anything.
Welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing the rebroadcast of This Is Actually Happening, episode 142, What If It Happened in Broad Daylight? and this is an episode from 2019. And I think, T, it would be amazing if we could attempt a follow-up.
100%.
I'm the showrunner for This Is Actually Happening, and I have the privilege to vet stories and conduct pre-interviews before they go to Whit for the final interview. And T knows nothing about anything. She comes in fresh. And this show, Trauma Bonded, is for you, the listeners. It's a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. T, what stuck out to you as the heart of our Anonymous's story?
Well, it's an awful, awful situation. She kind of starts to be able to listen to herself a little more, understand herself a little more after the fact. I think one big thing that happened in the beginning of her life was this boyfriend, right?
Mm.
This like hugely abusive, blackmailed her and things. But one thing that he said to her that I think probably affected her quite a bit was when she was crying because he was so awful, he was saying, nobody cares about you crying. This is one of, the closest people to you, right? And someone you love, maybe you trusted, that you might actually believe him. And I think this is something that went on throughout her life where she felt like nobody cared about her. I think she downplayed everything. I was like, no, I'm fine. Totally fine. It's fine. It's fine, So fortunately, I think she was able to kind of come back to herself and not hide the way that she felt anymore.
Yes.
Even when it first happened, she went into the break room.
Yeah.
And she's more concerned about how they're looking at her. She's more concerned about their reaction towards her than, hey, I'm in pain. Let's make sure I'm all set, right?
Right.
Or like when, she's like telling everybody she's totally fine, but then she's waking up nightmares and screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
It's kind of like she's starting to realize that this is actually more of a terrible situation than she's trying to show.
Yeah. I think because this was such a public crime, she is actually forced to reconcile what it did to her. I think usually
yes.
we get caught unaware in our trauma in private situations where it takes like a something that forces us to have some kind of deep reflection about it. And you're right, because she had this background of this fear of blackmailing from her former boyfriend, who was an abusive piece of shit by all accounts. Like, because this crime is so public, she now has to actually acknowledge and deal with her victimization for the first time, for real, like for real, and really in the real world.
Yeah.
All the reals,
It's all real. Yeah. And I think for her too, when she watches the security video, she feels empathy towards
herself,
the victim, who's herself.
Yeah.
And she's like, that was brutal, right? That was violent. But it's only then.
And what a gift to get.
Recognize. Yeah.
Most of us don't get a gift like that. So a lot of people deal with what they perceive to be their own pain and shame in private.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's so public in all facets, and she gets to see herself be victimized, she actually is forced to face it. And it's a good thing for her. It's like toward healing.
Yeah.
That's a good one, T.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, because before, another quote from the thing was, oh, I don't want to burden others with my feelings.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what really turned everything around.
Yeah. And
Think,
that,
yeah.
I feel like that's a real feeling. I mean, haven't you
Yeah.
felt that before?
But I feel like if I were stabbed, I might feel like now would be a good time to think and empathize with myself.
I mean,
Maybe.
maybe.
I don't know. I have felt that a lot. Like I'm gonna, not share my feelings.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just that she was stabbed either. It's this like visceral kind of, I mean, she says it herself. Like, it's truly one of those things that in concept, it's worse than what actually happened. Meaning, like, her throat was slit by a stranger in a bank. Like, on the face of it, that sounds insane. Like, that sounds so crazy. But when she like actually recounts the actual physicality of it, she just had some stitches and she's fine, and she can maybe get beyond that. But when you think about what actually happened, it's so much worse than the final outcome. In America, we live in a capitalist society, whatever, but there has to be an element of society. There has to be an element, like, we're not just like bots that make money for people. Like, we are living among each other, and there has to be an element of society there. And in order to take care of society, we have to take care of the most indigent among us, the most mentally ill, the most affected by ill health, the most impoverished, we must take care of those people for society to function at all. And it is upsetting when that seemingly is left to the wayside. We live in California, which by all perspectives from other people is a progressive state, but we can personally provide witness that there are people that have fallen through the cracks here. And it's probably reported on more so than most because people want to make an example of California. Oh, California is such a liberal, progressive state, especially the Bay Area or Northern California. It's such a liberal, progressive state, but look at all these like terrible homeless encampments and populations that are uncared for, especially in the city of San Francisco, with regard to opioids and fentanyl and all that shit. We're always looked to as we're supposed to be this rich, progressive society, and we have all these people that are left behind. And it is true, and it's something that when you're living in and amongst these people, you do get upset, and you're not upset at the people, you're upset at the politicians that refuse to acknowledge that that's happening in their communities and don't do anything about it. I mean, when I was taking care of your mom and I lived in the Outer Mission with your mom in San Francisco, and I would ride the 14 bus line from Outer Mission up to the ferry building, and the things you see on this bus, it's remarkable. You get a cross section of every bit of everything that's going on in a progressive modern day American city. And I've always said this: any politician that is attempting to serve San Francisco or attempting to serve the state of California, if they really want to know what's going on, just ride that fucking bus line, ride it back and forth. Like, you will see exactly what's going on in the city. Even in my meager experience of riding it, I always saw a mental health crisis happening. I always was witness to something that could be done better in our city. And long story short, my point is, we must take care of the mentally ill, the most impoverished, the saddest parts of our community if we want other people to thrive in our community. I mean, that's just what society is. You can't just live on capitalism. Like, you can't just live on money. There are people to be taken care of. You can't just like look at the bottom line. You must take care of people for a society to thrive. That's all I'm saying.
Very true. It's almost like they don't even fall through the cracks. It's like, there's a tendency to just throw them away, or
They're living amongst the cracks. And that does affect us. You're riding on a bus and you're seeing someone having a mental health crisis, and they might lash out in violence, and you're just, a regular poor or middle class or whatever person just trying to get to a job or to see a friend. That kind of behavior, you should be able to call someone, and it shouldn't be a violent, aggressive behavior from a police state that reacts to it. There should be a service that can come and actually meet that person where they are and help them. We live in a first world country.
yeah.
Helping them, that's not socialism. That's having an effective society. That's for all of us. And anyone that says that socialism lives in a bubble where they don't understand how when you're living and working in a city, they don't understand how these things work. Step outside your bubble for a second and see how other people have to deal with the day-to-day lives, the day-to-day struggles of regular life. And honestly, I feel like we're all like on a slippery slope. Like,
yeah.
we all could be there at any moment. So we should have those services in place. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I've always been thinking that, like, we're all on the brink, right? And
Yeah.
COVID happened. I mean,
Ugh.
really, I think we should think a little bit bigger. Yeah, if there were help for these people, as opposed to like you just see someone and you're like scared, right? But then also like, okay,
Yeah.
this person, there's something wrong with this person. They are bad, and that's the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
no, if we had the resources, the empathy, right, to actually help these people, maybe our reactions would be different as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get political on this podcast.
Well, okay.
We consistently pass measures in San Francisco to help the homeless. Billions of dollars. Like, homelessness has become the new big business of San Francisco. Yet we can't get rid of it. Lots of people are getting rich off of it, but there doesn't seem to be any progress of getting rid of it. In fact, it seems to get worse and worse all the time. That's a whole other side issue, obviously. I'm not trying to fix that right now. But when we analyze like how we want to live in a society, and maybe it is just like you don't want to see a homeless encampment on your own street, so you're willing to vote for a measure. I think we just need to hold politicians accountable for the money that we're giving them for these sort of endeavors. I don't know what I'm saying, but
I know what you're saying.
It should be solved by now.
It really should. It's been going on.
There's so much money funneled to this problem. And it's something that just seems to be talked about over and over and over again. As long as we let people that are mentally unstable continue to exist among us without help, we are always going to be victims of crime, which is what brings us back to this episode.
No, it's completely irrelevant. So I think it's
Yeah,
right.
thank you. Yeah, let's talk about this terrible boyfriend that she had.
Oh, God.
The boyfriend that printed out her texts and emails and walked by her class. I'm not laughing at it, but it's silly. Like thinking about it, we're in this digital world, and he prints out all of these digital texts and emails, and he would walk by her classroom, which is just such a bizarre imagining of like him just like holding up her texts and emails and like sliding by her window in this effort to blackmail her. And he taught her basically that she doesn't want to be a burden, with her feelings, which is what you just said earlier. And it's weird because it really does feel like it's a modern problem. This idea that everything that you type is kind of findable and printable and
Mhm.
shareable. T, you have kids and I don't have kids. And it just made me think like, your kids live in this world where everything they type is findable and printable and shareable. How are you going to teach your kids to avoid situations like this?
Haven't really thought about it. They can't spell yet.
It's
So
coming.
it
It's
is
coming
coming.
around the bend.
No, you're right. I mean, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Have you and Gwen decided on how old they're going to be
Oh
when
gosh,
you're
no,
allowing them to have their own phone?
I have not.
I watched my sister go through this, and I feel like it just
Okay.
kind of like she didn't have a plan and she just sort of reacted in the moment. And I think her like 7 and 9-year-old got the newest iPhones
Oh, really? Oh,
on
wow.
Christmas because it was just like all of a sudden, like they were aware, and then it was this pressure on her, and then she just like
Oh my God.
could do like a group family plan or whatever, and it just happened.
I mean, I
So,
understand the pressure.
but what are you gonna do?
Well, I'm really scared. I do imagine that like their classmates are gonna start getting phones and things
Yeah,
before they
yeah,
do. And then there's gonna be that pressure. I don't know. I don't want to, and I'm scared.
I know, but you're gonna have to face it at some point.
Like 18? Is that
No, you
20?
seriously are gonna have to figure
25?
out how you're gonna regulate this. Like, you're gonna have to have some hard line stances.
Because he's 6. We're 1 year away
No,
from that
no,
7.
I'm saying he's coming around. Okay, let's go back to the story
There's
at
no way
hand.
I'm doing that.
Okay, but let's say your kids have phones. How do you teach your kids to avoid situations like what she's talking about with this boyfriend?
As she says, they are so in love in the beginning.
I know, but you're good. So I want you to look at this from a parent point of view.
Oh,
When Evie comes to you and says, "I'm so in love with Gerard," and you're going to be
Depardieu.
looking at this kid and analyzing exactly what all of his problems are. You're going to see codependency, neediness, needing constant attention, being manipulative. Like you're gonna, like these are probably the signs that he was throwing out that she didn't exactly see because she was in it, but a parent might see. What are these red flags?
I have no idea how that might go down.
Don't
I,
worry, I'll be there.
okay, good. You'll size them up. Yeah, if
Do
you
you
could help
know
out with that, that'd be great. I don't know if I'd be able to read all that. I'd have to see,
you're good at seeing red flags?
Thanks for that. It's really
No, you guys are doing
helpful.
great. But
Good with
I mean,
toddlers. Once they turn
once they
into
break
tweens and
forth,
teens, they're gonna. I mean, they already own me.
yeah.
I'm a little bit scared.
Do you know who Kelly Cutrone is?
Our editor? No.
Kelly. So she was first introduced to us on a few episodes of The Hills. And then she was on a few episodes of The City.
Oh.
And then she got her own show for a season called Kel on Earth.
Oh,
But
fun.
anyways, long story short, she says that any hard conversations you should always be in person. So there's no record and no talk.
Yeah. No, that's good advice.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of time, even like when you think about it at work or something, that's what I think of. Things in writing. Like, why don't you send me that in an email? You know?
Yeah, there's a purpose behind that, so that you can bring it up in a court case.
Yeah.
Well, even
Yeah.
like any hard conversation you have with a friend, that's when you should always jump on the phone for, because you just don't want to have a record of it.
But then you don't have proof.
Yeah.
It depends, right? Are you the victim or the victimizer?
Do you want to hear a fun fact?
Okay.
This is sort of on topic and sort of not. So the age of consent in Georgia is 16. This is, for
Okay.
example, the age of consent to have sex is 16. But federal law says that child pornography is for those under 18. So technically, you can have sex at 16 in the state of Georgia, but you can't send nudes beforehand.
That seems weird.
Isn't that weird?
You can
Like,
see it in real life.
you could see it in real life,
But if you
but
take
you
a
can't see
picture
it
of
on a
it, then you're
phone.
going to prison.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Anyway.
Good fun fact. What do you think were on these texts? You think they were like sexts or nudes?
Oh, for
they were
our
nudes.
storyteller?
Yeah, that'd be bad if they were nudes.
Maybe. I mean, of course. Or at least like a fun,
It'd be
like,
illegal.
cleavage pic or something. So our anonymous storyteller works at a bank and she's accused of being touchy-feely. Let's talk about the slitting itself. When she says she felt a hand move her hair from her neck, a swiping of her hair from her
It's
neck.
very distinct. I mean, she
Yeah.
mentions that a couple times.
And then one fell swoop, the knife crossed the throat.
Well, that was a big part of her memory. It seems like when you go through something like that, it's almost maybe like a slow-mo thing, and you kind of feel that right before and remember it, like the moment right before. But I also feel like, why'd she do that?
The criminal?
The criminal. Why'd the criminal do that?
It feels like this weird intimate touch to it, doesn't
It's a
it?
touch. There's a touch.
Yeah.
It
It's like
feels
this
way touchy-feely.
right? Ironically, the thing
The
that
knife
she
was going to
didn't
go
like.
through it. It's not like blocking the neck. It's not like a wall. It's hair.
Okay, whoa. You just kind of blew my mind a little bit. I hadn't even thought about this. This woman, I don't know if we call her the criminal or the assailant or the mentally unstable.
Assailant, yeah.
Assailant. She hated being pointed at or pointed to or even the conception or perception that she was being touched. Yet she went through this really, really personal, intimate act of holding a stranger to her, touching her neck, and slicing a knife across her throat. Like, a knife attack is so much more personal and intimate than a gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just blew my mind. I hadn't even thought about that. It makes you wonder, why is it that she couldn't handle it, but she was so willing to dole it out? This sort of like really personal, quote unquote, touchy-feely behavior.
Yeah, you have to be really close to that person, and it is really intimate.
It's so close and so intimate.
Like, the whole thing with her, the assailant came in several times, and things had to be placed down so she can pick it up, so she doesn't touch anyone, so there's no contact at all.
She has a serious problem with touch. So for her to take this route, do you think it's just a route of utility? Like, it's because
she couldn't get
a hold of a gun? Yeah.
It's in Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it is to get a gun there.
I'm sure it's America. What's also crazy about this story, and thinking about how she'd gone this far to overcome her touchy-feeliness to be able to slice someone's throat. And our storyteller talks about this, like, she could have so easily lunged at her with this big fucking knife
Oh, yeah.
to finish the job. Like, she could have put this knife in her body, because from all accounts, like, everyone else just stood around and didn't know what to do. So there's these like intense moments where she cuts her throat and then nothing happens, but she could have just as easily taken the knife and just started like stabbing her in the chest and stomach. Like, she had all of this physical power behind her. She had this moment of surprise. She caught everyone off guard. She could have easily just taken this knife and started plunging it in her, but she just put the knife in her purse and left. Dude, I mean, our storyteller should just be so in awe of and she mentions it in her story, but she should have been killed. Really?
Yeah.
If she just would have taken the knife from her throat and just turned it 90 degrees and just started plunging it into her belly, like, she would be dead.
Yeah, why didn't she do that?
To escape that? That's crazy.
It's like she didn't mean to kill her.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, now we have to start analyzing what was her point. Why did she do this to her? It wasn't to kill her, because she could have easily done that in the moment. She had some sort of serious visceral reaction to the storyteller pointing at her statement, or whatever her perception was. Why did the assailant attack her in the manner that she did and not actually commit murder? Was she just trying to get attention? Was she high on something, or just something was missing in her and she just wanted to make a statement? I mean, what was her end goal?
Well, a couple of things I wonder is, like, she claims not to remember her attacking.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's almost maybe when she kind of woke up, possibly. It was like, oh my God, I just did that. Shock. And then you're like, oh my God. And then you like put your knife in your purse and run off. But also, I just also wonder, like, I've never attacked anyone, but wondering how it must feel to have like that power and then doing that and then controlling yourself enough to stop. If she were kind of conscious as she was doing it, to have that control, and why you would stop. Especially if you're at that point, you're thinking probably you're going to lose everything at that point. You're going to get caught. There's all these people around. Maybe you're just trying to get away, and like you're like, oh, I don't want to go to prison forever, or you don't want to, But when you have that, it's almost like animalistic aggression all of a sudden. It's like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And then you're doing it and you're like, oh, I'm stopping.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. She did stop herself. She knew better. Whatever her motives were, to make a point, or maybe she fell into some kind of psychosis and then snapped out of it. I mean, she definitely wasn't trying to kill her.
Yeah, I also wonder if she always had the knife in her purse.
Yeah, maybe.
Just in case.
Yeah. Let's talk about when our storyteller, found out about the news report initially, and the report was that the assailant had been shot and killed, and she said that she thought she was dead and she didn't know how to feel at that moment.
Was it because she wanted to have some answers?
I think that's a really hard fact to accept, right? I mean, you've just been attacked. You don't know what's going on. And then you've been told that the police shot her and she's dead. how are you supposed to feel in that moment? Which is what she was questioning. She didn't know how to feel.
Yeah, it's hard to process. I mean, I was kind of disappointed as well. As a listener, I was like, oh, damn, we'll never know why.
Right, we really want to know why.
But we
But
still
yet
don't know why.
we still don't know why. She lived and we still don't know why. But let me ask you this, T. Is that the only reason to preserve her life? To find out the why?
I mean, I don't think it's the only reason to preserve her life. It'd be good to just preserve life, but also to know why might help to understand, obviously, why she did that, but also would it help in figuring out how to get her some help? What do you think?
No, I think it's a natural reaction for us to, especially in America, we've got a lot of active shooter situations, and a lot of them end in suicide of the shooter, and we get all bummed out because we're like, oh, we weren't able to interview him to find out why.
Mm-hmm.
Because we think that these sort of tragedies are going to be lessened if we can understand why, or these tragedies don't have to go without merit if we can learn from them.
Yeah.
Yes, we've lost people or we've had tragedies, but at least we found out why they had, we try to equate it to like a leak in your bathroom. Why is the bathroom leaking? Well, it's because the valve shut off, with the L hinge or whatever. Well, we won't let that happen again. And we made this new part for it. Now, going forward, all the new L hinges have these little parts. Like, we think that we can fix this.
Right. Or it could be
thing.
because you fell on the toilet and broke the toilet.
Right. Sometimes people just have too much sake and they just fall on a toilet and break the toilet, and you can't fix it with
Water
the
everywhere.
L hinge. Yeah. But I think that is our natural reaction, is if we could understand why people do things, we can prevent them from happening again. And that's always why we want to understand why. That's always that's why profiling is so important in criminal behaviors. Like, that's why if
BAU.
we can understand the why, then maybe we can prevent crime from happening. Because it is so scary to think that we do not have an understanding or control over the things that happen to us. So we must always analyze the why so that we can prevent and predict and stop. And we just might not ever be able to. It's like the scariest place for people to live. Truly. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Why? How? Where? And this is what she says. She says anybody can kill you at any time for any reason. And that is the stark, cold, fucking bum-ass
You got
truth.
the heart of the story now?
Anybody can kill you at any time for any reason.
That's what I'm learning.
Thinking about her assailant, she wanted to know the why. The answer, as she said, would put a cap on it. And she said, I could tell myself this story. Her assailant was this and this and this, and that led to this and this and this, and that's why she slit her throat, and that's why but she's still alive, and there would be a cap on it, and that's the story she would tell herself. But really, the true answer is anybody can kill you at any time for any reason.
I'm going to go lock my doors real quick. Close this window.
Okay, so Caitlin, she goes back to work at the same location.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, T?
I mean, if I had the choice, I probably wouldn't. But I think this is her way, right? As she said, to kind of not let the assailant have power over her. And she loved it there. It was like one of her places, like she felt the most comfortable there and actually had friends and felt like, I don't know, she wanted to stay. A lot of us don't have like a choice just to like move to other
No, I know.
workplaces all the time.
And it beckons me back to our episode about what if you killed someone. It was the idea that she had her same car repaired. She had this car repaired that killed a person. But it was because of circumstances that she couldn't just like abandon the car. So I get it. It's the same kind of idea. Like you can't necessarily abandon a job and just like move to a different country. You can't move to a different city. It's wicked difficult to do that. I mean, when you're suffering from PTSD, it would seem really horrible to put yourself in the same place where you experience that. I mean, her throat was fucking slashed.
You can't help but be reminded of it like every single time you walk in.
Oh, and I love it how she finds a therapist that she likes, but because of some bullshit capitalistic need, she gets changed out. Look, you guys, finding a therapist is very, very difficult. It's like finding a person to marry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like finding a drummer for your band. Like, it's not something you just like walk out into the middle of the street and go, oh, I'll take you. And when we talk about like the mental health crisis, we just act like, oh, just get a therapist, have a therapist. Just why don't you have a therapist? It's not that easy, y'all. I have had therapists. T has had therapists.
Several.
Did you say Adderall?
I said several.
I've had several. It's very hard to find a therapist. And when you do find a therapist that you connect with and that you like, it's extremely valuable and extremely rare. And the fact that Caitlin found someone that she liked and then it was rooted away from her because of some sort of weird healthcare system insurance bullshit construct that exists, that it was taken away from her. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And that's not how these systems should work. But anyone that spent any kind of amount of time in the healthcare industry knows that none of this is toward your health. It's all toward the bottom line. And no one is going to walk out of here alive, and everyone is just trying to get their pound of money before you exit toward death. Sorry, T.
No, yeah, I've been through several therapists at this point. And I'm San's therapist.
I am also San's therapist.
Maybe we should start going again.
No, I want to.
I really should.
Go. I think it's weird that we get to be these ages and we kind of like, you just kind of like enter middle age and you finally figure out how things are so fucked up, you know, like you kind of like have breaths of it being fucked up. You don't really know how exactly how fucked up it is until you like really arrive into some sort of adulthood. And the fact that there's so much capitalism in the healthcare industry is so fucked up. It's so fucked up. Money should have nothing to do with your physical health or your mental health. That end all be all. Money should have nothing to do with it. If I find a therapist that works out of my network, that should have nothing to do with it. It's about my well-being. It's about me getting healthy. There should
No, I mean I agree with you there.
All right, T, do you
mad
have
today.
anything else to say?
You're so mad today.
I am really mad. It was 100 degrees here.
Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show where podcasts are kept. If you like us, please rate and review us on Apple or other places. Please compete with our favorite negative review, oof. Rival that review. Write something beautiful and lovely if you like us. Thanks to Anon for sharing their story and giving us the opportunity to talk about it. Thanks to This Is Actually Happening team, including Whit Missildine and the maker of our music and website, Nathaniel Trimboli. You can contact us at traumabondedpod@gmail.com and find us on Instagram at traumabondedpodofficial or visit our website at traumabondedpod.com. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. Love you, Elly.
Love you too.
Good job. Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Trauma bonded.